represent. Go, rest in peace.
All right, welcome to the 500th episode of Backroom Casting Couch. We're here to film a porno. The girls will be here shortly.
Awesome.
Welcome to Scissor Me Now. I'm Aaron Coe, and I'm here with Jackie Lynn. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? Good to be here.
Yeah, so usually in my podcast, I have an assortment of barbers, hairstylists, and now I have someone a little bit different. And I guess for your own edification, who exactly are you?
My name is Jackie Lynn Ellison, and I'm the current and two-time imperial mustache world champion. I've been competing in mustache competitions since 2012, and I've traveled the world, and I've traveled the country, and I've met an incredible amount of people, and had incredible experiences, and got to win along the way, which, yeah, it's been a great experience.
Yeah, so as we discussed, you started this whole thing competing-wise by going to Austria. But even before you went to Austria, this whole thing began by you just starting and getting interested in growing facial hair. How did that happen?
Well, I knew I could grow a mustache, and I'd grown like a chin beard, like a goatee before. I'd shave the rest and just grow a long goatee. I wanted to have like a Chino Moreno from the Deftones type of thing.
Yeah.
And I started to grow a mustache. There's a couple of actors in movies that I liked, like Daniel Day-Lewis. And so it just started out small and started getting bigger.
That's a cool admission. Actually, beforehand, I didn't know that. Like, it's always cool to have idols like that. You know what I mean? That you wish you could grow stuff like with. That's cool.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that it looked really bold and cool. So started getting larger, and just kept getting bigger and longer. And so I felt like it was, it was a thing. It was something I was proud of in some ways, and I was distinguishable. People remembered me.
Yeah.
They're the mustache guy, and I'm a bit of an enthusiast with anything. Like, I don't dabble. I usually fall pretty hard for the things that I'm interested in. So got into buying wax and trying to figure out how I could style it, how I could make it look interesting.
So what year was it that you started messing around with wax and all that stuff? Because in the men's grooming industry, some of those products compared to now are much more developed.
Yeah, 2012. And in 2012...
Okay, so that's almost kind of like really, for me, as far as I think, it was sort of like really the beginnings of like the men's grooming industry.
Totally, yeah. So I went to Walgreens, and they had Clubman's, which is almost a lotion. It's like, technically it's like a pomade style wax, or a styling aid, and it's not like a wax based. And it didn't really have hold. It was, water soluble, so it was affected by the heat. It really just didn't give me like like the anti-gravity look I was looking for.
Right.
And it was also, and my mustache was really small then. I just had like a little tiny
Okay,
wing.
so what we're seeing now isn't even the full result of what you were working with in the beginning.
Oh, no way. No,
Okay.
I had like what you have, but like just a little bit over my top lip, just barely over my top lip. It was by no means down to my bottom lip.
Right.
And I couldn't form a curl or even like a circle. I just had just barely a little wing. And it's interesting, when you start to grow a mustache, you get excited because you're on the playing field, and you're like, I want to do everything. Like, I want to buy a bunch of product, and I want to make it look like something, something dramatic.
Right, we all have that coming of age, and I think mine was definitely somewhere. I was embarrassed in my teens of having a mustache, because mine was like, I had got it when I was 13. It was thin, it was wispy, it looked like shit. And so then once I shaved it off, that's when I realized, like, oh shit, it's like on.
Right.
But I kept shaving it, and now that I think about it, man, I would have loved to look like some stubbly weirdo, you know what I mean, when I was like 16 or whatever.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have given a shit, but like, whatever, I guess, like, we were all that self-conscious.
Yeah, I feel like I've always had some kind of shtick. Like, I had the goatee in high school, and I always shaved the mustache off, but then I went clean shaven and I started doing big mohawks. and like started
Yes.
dyeing mohawks different colors, and I was really into that, playing in bands in Dallas.
So there's a little punk rock in you.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I was, I was playing in rock bands and as a lead guitar player, leaning off the front of the stage playing solos. I wanted to look, dramatic and awesome. So, mohawk and ripped up jeans and all that jazz. And, but then as the mohawk days kind of fell, into the sea, I got more into classic style, started doing pompadours.
Right.
And then soon after that, the mustache started to come out. And that was kind of in the dawn of pompadours and beards and mustaches in the last 5-10 years. I wouldn't say before anyone was doing it, but kind of at the beginning. And yeah, it was cool to start doing a mustache and to shave my whole face and just have the mustache.
Yeah.
And the bigger it got, the more I tried to style it, the better I got at styling it. And then I got on the internet looking for mustache products and like-minded people and just anything I could find.
So were you finding mustache communities before you went to Austria?
Oh yeah, well Austria was in 2015. So my first competition was in 2012.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah, that was years before.
And are they built out the same way where his mustache style is called imperial, correct?
Yeah, imperial mustache. As far as the World Beard and Mustache Association is concerned. But when I started to grow a mustache and styling it, I thought of it as a handlebar. And I still think of it as a handlebar because that's kind of the more...
Is that the less pretentious thing to call it?
Well, no, that's the American way of calling it.
Okay.
The imperial mustache particularly is modeled as a German style.
Right.
Modeled after the Kaisers. It's the Kaiserliche Schnauzbart. And that's the Kaiser's mustache. It's the German king's mustache. So imperial is just a specific style. And a lot of the...
So German kings would rock this?
Yeah, but,
That's pretty dope.
Not as big. This is a bit dramatic. And I kind of set a precedent in the World Beard Mustache arena for what an imperial mustache could be because there wasn't a handlebar category. So I kind of made it a fusion category.
Are you one of the few Americans that's won the actual?
Yeah, there's another guy named Benjamin Jurgens who's won first place imperial mustache once back in Norway. Was it Norway? Can't remember exactly when, but
A little while ago?
yeah, it was.
So there's
Before
only
I
two
started.
of you.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so he won before I did, but I've won twice, and so I've won that particular category more than any other American.
Jesus, man. So, all right. Well, tracing back to this, I guess I didn't even get to ask you this. How did your first competition go?
Well, my first competition was in Dallas, and it was in the theater that Abraham Lincoln was shot in, which
By John Wilkes.
which was interesting, historically significant venue, and I went in like a lot of first-time competitors, knowing in my heart that I was the winner. Like I knew I would win, and I knew I would have the best mustache there. And I saw people who totally exceeded my expectations, not only in my category but in other categories. I saw Benjamin Jurgens there, the previous Imperial Mustache World Champion, but he was just natural, and he competed in the natural category, and I was so happy he did because I was totally... I saw him and I was like, oh man, there's no way I can beat that guy.
He would have crushed.
Yeah, so in my category, I was on stage with my competitors, and I looked at everybody, and I was like, oh, I got this. I was totally confident. And I kind of overdressed. I wore like a Victorian, like kind of Dickens era, like top hat with a cravat and like really dramatic outfit.
Right.
Not really that close to my personality. I just wanted to be a showman, which I later learned that doing things closer to your personality and doing things more honest to what your genuine style is, I think is more important when you walk away with a win or a lose, because you know you're doing it for yourself and who you genuinely are.
Right. So explaining this to our audience, it's more than just actually having the facial hair, folks. It's about having the outfit too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's there's a lot of points. I mean, you have to have a good style. In America, typically they want you to have a larger style. You have to have what you wear needs to look good. It needs to be a cohesive idea. If you just show up in a t-shirt, the guy with a three-piece suit's probably going to beat you. Hairstyle matters. The way you walk across the stage, your conviction, your confidence.
So there's an actual stage that you walk across, you demonstrate, and you display.
Right. So most competitions, you walk out in front of the crowd and kind of display to the crowd. Then you walk past the judges, and then you walk up to the MC and talk to the MC about whatever he wants to ask you. And then you walk up past the judges again, and then you go stand in line and you wait for all your category members to walk.
What does the MC ask you?
In America, the events are
That
pretty...
seems so strange that you would complete this all the way to go to a questionnaire for the MC.
Yeah, so like in America, they can be pretty slapstick, and they'll ask you, anything from how long have you been growing to how do you kiss your girlfriend with that, or anything. They'll ask you. American competitions are like a party. Everybody's really high energy and drinking, and it's a party. In Europe, it's a bit more proper, and a lot of times the MC might not, I don't know if they're necessarily...
Oh, but the MC is just like a normal part of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
MC introduces categories, MC introduces people, says their names, and kind of curates the whole event.
Right. So one of the things that caught me about your story was that you went all the way to Austria, and knowing how hard you worked putting yourself into this, you feel like at that time that you almost had sort of like what was perfection, right?
Or
did you feel there was something maybe a little bit missing going into Austria?
I was pretty confident in Austria. In 2000, give you a little background. Like in 2015, that was my second world championship. In 2013, I went to Stuttgart, Germany for the world championships for the first time. I had long hair. I wore a fedora with like a three-piece suit that was blue and silver and like a baby blue, and I styled it as big as I possibly could. And I thought I was confident. I thought that I could do well, and I placed fourth. So I was one click away from the podium.
Right.
And that really pulled the pinball back. It was like, you have the potential. You could be in the winner's circle. What do you need to do to figure it out? And the world championships are biennial, so I had 2 years to figure it out. And the next year, straddling the world championships, was the British National Championship.
Oh.
And so in 2014, I went to Bath, England, and I competed in the British National Championships, and with the idea that with the motif and basically vision that I still use today, which went from what I was wearing before in the style I had before to a pompadour with a red, white, and blue and gold motif with a vest and a bow tie, and my style was I didn't style it to be as big as possible. I styled it to look as full-formed and as thick as possible,
right,
and more appropriate to my face, because before it was kind of wider than my face, but I wanted to bring it in so I could show my jawline and my clean haircut.
Gotcha. So this was the thought process of you basically trying to craft perfection for the next year.
Right, yeah, I was tightening everything up, and not just trying to blow everybody away, but just trying to make things appropriate and as cohesive as possible.
That's interesting. So you're sort of like lessening the effect of the spectacle of the actual mustache itself, and focusing more on proportions. Gotcha.
Which I think's a very important thing for everybody, and because people think bigger is better a lot of the time, and it's not. That's my opinion, but I think that when things are just right, it's like the medium porridge. You want to do what's appropriate. So I went to Bath, and I won first place in Bath with my idea, and I was the only American competitor in the English competition in my category, and it really excited me and kind of showed me that my idea worked in Europe. So then the following year, for the World Championship in Austria, I used the same idea, tweaked things a little bit as far as styling, but as far as the outfit, it was all the same. And I went from 4th place in Germany to 1st place in Austria. So I won the world championship, and I met my goal by really, embodying the vision I created.
Well, let me ask you this, because going from 4th all the way to 1st place, that doesn't seem like a very common leapfrog, especially since you go on to tell the story of how you won again in 2017, and no one really leapfrogged you like that. I thought that potentially there is that possibility for that to happen.
Sure.
But it's because you did it, and it seems like whatever you accomplished in Austria, you nailed it so much in your mind, and then now it finally come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's from learning, it's from, the same thing that is going to enable someone to surpass me is what enabled me to surpass the people who beat me before, and to surpass myself, is building a vision, learning from and just kind of tweaking what I think is going to be the perfect idea,
Right.
and then also looking for opportunities and looking for weaknesses in other people that I can push for myself. Like even walking the stage, how you conduct yourself and what you do, how you command the crowd, and if you even have it in your mind to command the crowd. And whenever you walk to the judges and look at them, if you're connecting with them as people and smiling and being friendly, or if you're trying to stare through their souls and it's,
I'm picturing you staring through my soul right now.
yeah, there's so much that goes into it, and it's so subjective, and you never really know how the show's going to go until you walk out on stage. And once you walk out on stage,
Very true.
you feel the arena, and you feel the vibe, you feel the energy of the other people, and you adapt to that in the moment and do your best.
Now, one of the things I really liked as you were explaining it is because you got scored 49.9 on that.
Yeah,
Correct.
In Austria, 49.9, which was, it was emotional. It's incredible to see that many 10s, because in that competition they held up their scores immediately.
Oh, so they go into like decibels. So one person just held up at 9.9.
Yeah. Well, there was
What?
no. They did 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, and 9.9. So yeah.
Okay.
And I was fine with that, because
Right.
as the category goes down, everyone's watching all the scores, so you can see who got 10s. And in my head, I was counting. This guy got 3 10s. This guy got 4 10s.
Oh, okay.
And you can kind of judge that. You can do them if you do the math in the moment. You can see who won. And I realized when I saw my score that I was going to be hard to beat, unless someone got a perfect score, which no one did in my category.
Right, and like you were telling me, his style of mustache, imperial, is the most. It's the one that people go after most. Correct.
There's typically in the mustache, within mustache categories, it's the largest category. It's the highest capacity.
What is the official name of the competition?
Well, for the world competition, it's the World Beard and Mustache Championship.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the World Beard and Mustache Championship is broken into 3 major categories, which are mustaches, partial beards, and full beards.
Right.
And within each, there are natural styles which have no styling aids.
Right.
There are categories with styling aids, and multiple of each. So for mustaches, there's English mustache and Dali mustache and freestyle mustache, which you can do whatever you like. There's imperial mustache. There's a Hungarian mustache, or just a natural mustache.
Right.
For partial beards, there's cheek beards that you can style. There's goatees that are styled, and also natural for each of those respective ideas, and a few others. And then for full beards, there are full beard natural, which are just flowing feet of beards.
So is the
5 foot beards.
flowing beard 5 foot beards? Jesus.
Oh yeah, or plus. There's some really long beards.
Yeah. Is the full beard just supposed to be just like an impressive display of just utter manliness?
Yeah, well, I think it's just kind of, for me, I do two things or three things. I grow, I style, and I shave. So my
Right.
shaving is a thing, my styling is a thing, and my growth is a thing. For full beard natural, they just grow. They don't trim, they just grow. It
Right.
just flows forever. So they're judged on that. It's really kind of
So there's like no length
well, there's like
length cutoffs.
no, there's an infinity length. There's like it's typically over, I think 3 or 4 feet, and then there's categories. I think it's 3 length categories. So like short, it's this long and then super long.
Gotcha. So you left Austria as a champion with 49.9, and I'm assuming at that point, when anyone becomes a champion of anything, then comes the sponsors, then comes people who want to be involved with you. What was that progression like?
It's pretty, going to Austria, I'd already been partnered with a company, Dreambeard, a beard oil company, and they had a house set up for us. We had a team of like 5, 6 guys who were the Dreambeard team.
Right.
And so we all stayed in the same house together, we styled together, kind of built the energy, and we went out and competed, and most of us did good. And so...
Okay, so you rolled as a team.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also was with the Austin Facial Hair Club, which is a big club from here in Austin. So it's kind of rolling with 2 teams. And there's there's tons and tons of beard clubs in America and Germany, France, all throughout Europe, and South America, even as far as New Zealand and Australia.
Right.
Some in Asia. And so all these clubs and teams converge on the World Beard and Mustache Championship. So in Austria, there's a lot of teams, and the night before the competition, there's like a meet and greet. And so you got all these teams, dressed the same, and everybody's.
Is that a little bit goofy? Because I know you from talking from you a little bit the other day, and I know like in the culture of this whole thing, you really enjoy actually something that not a lot of people do, which is this teaching and like mentoring thing and helping people develop. And in my head, I can only picture so many mustache people just, I don't know, do they try to intimidate each other?
Yeah,
like,
well,
what is it?
It
seems like a big peacocking event.
Yeah, like in a lot of ways it is, and in a lot of other ways it's like-minded people sharing a love for something that they're both into, So you have a lot of German masters, as we call them, the older guys in their 60s, who see this excitement and this energy for the community and the idea of what we're doing, and they love to show us what they have to do, with their ideas and give us tips. There's also people, that kind of pit themselves against each other.
The New Orleans guy.
Yeah, and try to, kind of peacock each other out.
Yeah.
And, like it's just like any other small community. It's just even like a high school or a college where you have some people who get it and share ideas, and then some people who just can't help but fight. There's always drama anywhere.
Let me ask you this, because I know you're going to be in it again next year. I mean, in 2 years, in 2019. Mm-hmm. Is it a process that you enjoy going through? Is it amusing?
Absolutely. I've been playing guitar on stage for most of my life, so I love the show. I love to prepare for the show, and I love to perform.
Okay, so you love everything that happens as part of the integral experience.
Absolutely, yeah. So I know that if I'm talented and I have something of value to offer, then I'm a part of the show. So it'd be great to show up. Whether I win or lose, I love the idea of putting on a great show and for all the best people to come out and show. So the point of entertainment is there, and the idea of what the actual production gets accomplished. People winning and my own personal gratification is great, but without sounding ungrateful, you only have to win so much. I've won world championship twice. I've won first place in 25 competitions. Whenever I win first place, it's not that I don't appreciate it, but it's not that I feel like fully fulfilled again, and that it's what I needed. It's at this point, and for a while, it's really been about stimulating the community and putting on great shows, fulfilling what all the people involved are, wanted to get out of it. We do a lot of charity stuff, so it's great to see a lot of numbers in charity for charity and be able to, put big numbers on big checks.
Well, we were talking about this the other day, a little bit about the champions mentality, and of all the champions I've ever met, but I think more importantly for anyone else who's out there that watches, it could even be in passing, but you hear about it. You hear about sports champions, most elite sports champions, that pretty much dictate a lot of the media. And
yeah, those are the most famous champions in the world.
Right. And
the ball players.
And it seems like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Because speaking to one champion, there seems to just be this insatiable thirst to get back to where they've already been, over and over and over again. And I remember you telling me that, when you went over to, hold on a second, clear this part out.
Phone call.
There we go. The first iPod Touch. Do you remember when those things fucking came out? It was crazy. I really liked them, actually. I was a pretty big fan, especially going from what's it called, the iPod. My dad, who is a weird stock market gambler, he makes it seem like he only does power stocks or whatever, but he bought Apple once, and I think it was the biggest thing of pride for him to buy Apple stock and then flip it and then buy all of us iPods. And he was trying to explain to us how he did it, and we didn't give a fuck. We were just whatever.
Sure, we have iPods now.
That's
all that matters.
We don't give a fuck. But thanks, Dad. So yeah, as you were as I was just talking a second ago, your whole mentality towards being a champion. We see what goes on in sports and all that. There's a big thirst to get there, and yeah, there's a lot of champions. Even in the sports world that mentor. But what you just said about you only have to win so many times. That's a very interesting way to feel about something, man. It's almost to finish the story, you went all the way to Austin this year where they held it, and then you actually had managed to repeat, and not only repeat, but complete a perfect score of 50.
Yeah.
Which, going and completing that last 0.1%, regardless if it's in competition, your personal life, or whatever it is, the very closing of that final part of the gap is definitely the hardest. Yeah. So when you got 50, was it a completely different emotional reaction than the very fact of just taking away another title? You would actually hit not only what was perfection in your mind, but hitting perfection on score.
I wish I could say it was, but it really wasn't. I was excited that I won again. Going into the competition, I just wanted to place, frankly. If I didn't get first again, I'd already achieved first, and so no one could take away the fact that I am within the first place champions of the world. I did it in Austria, so if I didn't do it again, it's fine. I'm still there. I'll always be there. That's what's in black and white. So to achieve more is icing on the cake, and it's awesome. I totally appreciate it. But within this, I'm not, like I said, you can, I don't want to say you can only win so much, because I'm going to try to win again.
Sure.
And I tried, and I put my effort into winning for the second time. But there's a lot of other ways to win, and just going to achieve first place can't be top of the list.
Right.
Going to do your best and stimulating the show and stimulating the community and trying to help the people around you to grow what you're doing is a huge win in itself. And I got to accomplish all those things too.
When did you come to realize that, the second part of what you said about, being able to see what you can do for your community and how you can mentor is just as equal of a win, as being part of a champion? When did you come to actually have that humble moment of that being equal in your mind?
Well, as soon as I saw opportunity, you're in the styling room backstage with 100 guys in 100 different categories. Everyone's running around. People are spraying hairspray and using wax and blowing blow dryers.
Right.
And it's like the backstage of like a theater house or any other kind of a performance. And people are trying to do their best, and people want to do their best. I remember in Stuttgart, Germany in 2013, I was backstage with Giovanni Dominici, which was the current world champion for Imperial Mustache. He won in 2011 in Norway. And he looked at me, and I remember thinking, before I got to Germany, for the whole year, I was thinking that this is the guy to beat. He's the first place champion.
Right.
And we're about to walk out on stage, and he looked at me and he was like, "What do you think? How do I look?" And to me, it was like the world champion shouldn't need any help. I shouldn't give him any pointers. I don't want to help him because he's just going to beat all of us again.
Right.
But then there was like this humble moment of humility and this human dynamic of just helping your friends and helping make a good show and helping someone get out there and enjoy what they came there to enjoy. And so I told him the right side needed to be picked up a little bit, and then we just kind of looked at it together. And he looked at me again real quick to be like, "You're telling me the truth, right?" and I really meant it, And he didn't repeat his win, and I didn't win either. 3 other people won. But in that moment, I realized that it's not just to go out there and cut your enemies' throats. I mean, it's a fun show. It's something to enjoy.
Is this sort of like a personal practice of yours, or does it exist in the same competition, just not on your side, where a lot of people are out bloodthirsty trying to cut each other's throats?
I think that it's like also human nature to cut your enemy's throat. I mean, it's just like that's what people want to do. They don't want to help anybody. They want to intimidate. They just want to do what they can to win, because after everything's said and done, all that shows is the results. So however we got there doesn't matter.
Right.
But for me, when I'm backstage and I see someone who's new in the game, maybe this is their first competition, I'll go to them and I'll say, "Hey, why don't you try this product?"
Is it pretty easy to tell a first timer out there?
Totally, because you've been there, and,
right.
And the nerves that come with trying to do your best and being around people who have this ease and this confidence about them, who have been doing it for years, and also just not believing in yourself, or maybe seeing someone that you really believe should be the champion, and so all of a sudden you're not rooting for yourself as much as you're rooting for them, and you're in the competition.
See, that's so interesting, because just as a side note, I remember when I was trying stand-up comedy for the first time up in Kansas City, and you think that you're already going up there and you're doing something that's already terrifying you anyway.
Sure.
And it would be nice to have some comic come up to you and just be like,
yeah,
just don't worry about it. Just just
absolutely.
Just have fun with it.
It's the best.
But it wasn't like that at all. It was like this it basically was like a dungeon, with a microphone in front of it, and my friend came with me, and I was just like, "Dude, I'm not gonna lie, it feels like kind of a slaughterhouse in here," because they would have 5-minute sets, and it was just mostly comedians, maybe 30% audience, and if you didn't say something funny, dude, no one would fucking laugh.
No, total chopping block.
Oh, and it's horrible, and it's it's like the craziest version of tough love I can think of, because it's like if you're shitty, no one's gonna save you. You know what I mean? No one. Which
can be, which can be inspiring, but not everyone reacts to that as well. Some people will never come back,
Oh yeah.
And I just see if I have tools to help people look their best. They may not win, but to look their best in the form that they're in, and I share that with them. Maybe in 2 years they'll come back and win the whole show. Maybe in 5 years, and then I'm a part of that, and I think that's special. I have no qualms with helping people. Even if it means helping someone who's my direct competitor, who could possibly beat me.
First of all, just from everything you've said so far, you are a very unusual competitor. And the very fact that of all Americans, you're the most winning American technically in all these competitions for this particular style. On top of that, your willingness to help people it's very casual for you. It's something that it's almost like if you had a pupil, you would encourage them to do the same thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, that also puts me in a place of superiority whenever everyone knows that I'm the wizard behind the curtain, and all my competitors know that I'm the one who helps everyone and that I'm the one with the insight, which, not that I am a wizard, but that creates that illusion when I'm helping everyone, and they have that respect for me, which builds their confidence in me and builds my confidence in me and puts me in a good spot. It makes me feel good. I wouldn't be as confident if I sat in a room full of people that I wasn't helping and everybody was pitted against each other. I would rather us all go out on stage as friends,
Right.
In that way, we're all confident as we could be. Now, I still think, because, at the end of the day, sure, this is a competition that I'm trying to win, I still think that I have an edge over all of them in some capacity, because I've looked at a lot of the things you need to do for this from a molecular level, and I think if there's someone that I don't need to help, who has it as figured out as I do,
Right.
then maybe I wouldn't help them, because they're in their stride, and let's see what they can do.
So there still was a competitive nature
Sure.
to this.
Yeah, and I think that most of the people, without sounding too bold, most of the people I've helped, I haven't seen as true competition.
So these are people who are seeking your help more or less.
Yeah, and people hit me up, and I'm totally down to help. And I've been in the game longer, and whenever I was starting out, I would have loved someone to give me some pointers or show me how. There weren't that many people around.
No, but you figured it out, and that doesn't seem like a very common story for someone to figure it out so quickly from one competition to the next. Because you leapfrogged everybody, and you kept your place.
It wasn't effortless.
No, I don't think so at all.
Yeah, it's because I pined over it, and I lost competitions, and I didn't place, and so I saw that. It just, like I said, pulls the pinball back further, and makes me shoot my trajectory further,
Right.
and it makes me want to win harder. And that plays into a lot of facets of life. You get knocked down, you start to learn from how you got knocked down, and then before you know it, you don't get knocked down anymore.
So, and going from 2017 and going all the way through 2019, I guess now that this is just sort of finished, when did the competition wrap up?
The 2017 competition was in
Yeah.
September.
Okay, so it wrapped out about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get more sponsors again from this time around since you won again?
No, I haven't been approached by anyone, but I also don't. I don't want to use the word exploit, but I don't really push my image within the community. I'll do press during the competition. I did a British talk show. I did a French TV show. Did a bunch of American stuff. But as far as using social media and running a train of hashtags and
Right.
mentions,
Do you see people doing that?
absolutely,
Okay.
and it'll earn you something. It'll earn you follow. How the game works with social media.
Right.
You play the game, you'll get the recognition, and you can get a lot from the recognition.
Right.
So-
Hashtags are a really powerful way of marketing now.
Totally, it's literally taught in marketing. Hashtag. It's a thing.
Yeah.
But I don't enforce my image like that, even on my personal accounts. Not that I've never posted a picture of myself, but I don't exploit it because it's not at the top of my priorities. I care about my friends, and I care about my job, and I care about the music I play, and those things all easily outweigh my image. This has become a little bit of a separation from my actual personality. It's almost like a performance piece, because I developed a vision, an artistic vision for fashion and style and performance, and I pushed it. And the vision I built was to win.
Right.
Was to be like this, premium idea. But it wasn't necessarily genuinely who I was. It was an idea for a purpose. So a lot of days I don't style my mustache and I don't wear a pompadour, and I definitely don't wear a bow tie every day. So it's an extension of me, and
Right.
it's definitely an expression. But who I really am that's not exactly it. So I wouldn't want to use my personal, social outlets just to push that.
Right. Well, you were telling me earlier that there's sort of like a bit of like when you were a kid, you were saying that like there was a progression to this whole thing, and the way that it happened was almost kind of serendipitous. Like you were a kid and you did a lot of drawings.
Yeah.
And these drawings in particular were like you being able to draw like these like sort of like squiggly like shapes.
Yeah, I used to draw like filigree. I would draw the same filigree that was on like a dollar bill. And I also like to do big curly calligraphy style writing. I remember my grandmother and I doing calligraphy. She would do documents for the state of Delaware and sign things really incredible. It's incredible to me. So I loved that, and then I got into graffiti, and I would do everyone's name in the classroom, and I would even go and spray paint.
Really, you were tagging back in the day?
Yeah, and
Did you have a name for yourself?
Yeah, definitely.
What was your tagging name? Mine was shitty, dude.
It's funny. My name was Skills.
Skills?
Like SKILLZ.
Yeah.
And I would just do an SZ as like kind of my insignia, and I did that forever. And like every now and then, if I have a pen and I'm on the phone, I'll like bomb it on something just because
Just to keep it alive.
it's just so natural. But like Skills, I started when I was literally in 4th grade.
Yeah, I had one with my friend. His was Paranoia. And I didn't have one because I'm not artistic. I was an artist, so I was just like, shit, man. So I picked one, and I picked Magic with a K, and
Nice.
it was awful, dude. Like his was awesome because Paranoia, like after the initial P, just has all the lowercase letters, so he could just block them out to look really cool. And we used to do some ghetto tagging.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's fun.
Sorry to my next door from my hometown, Bellevue. Dude, we went to like, I think we might have even gone to the hospital. I'm sorry, this is even worse now. I think we went to the hospital.
Yeah,
And on the outside of the windows with like Sharpie markers, like Sharpie paint markers, we would just tag the windows, and it was so awful.
Yeah, but like it's a part of American culture, and like some kind of freedom of speech.
Dude,
and
it was a
expression.
coming of age thing for sure for us.
Yeah, we loved it. Like we would like bomb on dumpsters and bomb on like mailboxes, and back
Isn't
in
that
the old days.
hilarious? Like that's the one that'll get you the most fucked is the mailbox, because it's like federal
Right.
shit or whatever. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah, there was even in West Philadelphia and Westchester, there were places that kids could tag, and like we would go there, and like there was like they would whitewash, and we could tag all we wanted to.
that's dope.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like urban community stuff like that in New England. I don't know about in Texas, but yeah. So in the beginning, I did a lot with art and making curls and that kind of. Whenever I got into sculpting mustache, that was definitely
So that was
part
able
of it.
that was able to help you translate. And then the other aspect too is that you actually worked doing retail and doing like
Yeah, I did men's fashion apparel. So, putting together outfits and picking out clothes that fit people in a certain way, and color blocking or
Right.
color stories. I did that for years. So when it came to developing my final visions, I definitely put that into play. I was like, what's going to convey my message? I'm coming from America, red, white, and blue. I want to win gold. I'll add some gold accents to it.
Right.
What else goes with red, white, and blue? I did like some taupe slacks, and then I sold leather goods and shoes. So I wore like some saddles that had navy. They were white and navy with some taupe on them, so they kind of tied into my outfit. And I had like the gold chain into the pocket watch. And
So this was all coming together.
yeah, definitely. And,
Interesting.
you know, and for like having the hairstyle, I've been doing pompadours and mohawks since I was a teenager. And then as far as stage presence, you know, I've been playing guitar on stage most of my life, so walking out there and presenting myself, I don't even have to play guitar. I mean, I just have to go out there and show, you know, just show how I dressed, and you know, so it all came together, and I feel like kind of all of the points that I think are most important worked out for me as far as developing the final vision.
That's amazing. Do you ever look at all those combining factors and think how unusual it was that all came together?
You know, I think it's yeah, it is unusual. It's so unique.
And then this is the manifested form of it.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's cool that I found a way to express myself in so many different ways for one purpose, and I think that's how it works out for a lot of people who find themselves kind of at the top of the heap in their respective community. It's just everything plays into who they are, and it really kind of builds to what it means to be in that world, and it's kind of a natural thing for them.
Right. Yeah, because I remember, going back in my own, like, who would have thought that, like, I'd ever be designing scissors or everything. So I look back and I was like, how did this happen? And when you were telling me about how it happened to you, I started thinking about it a lot myself. And when I was younger, I got into a lot of trouble. And so a big part of me having to pay a lot of bails, having to pay like all that sort of stuff that goes in with court was like, you need cash fast, man.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember even before that, when I went to New York and I dropped out and I took a one-way ticket and I got hired by Paul Mitchell Scissor Sharpener, getting that job was all about me selling a side of myself that I wasn't confident with, but in turn, like, doing that so many times gave me the confidence to go, I know myself. I know my limitations and I know what I can finally do. I just need to be in the position in the first place.
Right.
So once that happened, and if all the combining times of me getting pretty close going to jail, I had to come up with cash quick, and that's where all the sales came in.
Sure.
Because when you have to make money fast, I mean, I remember
you get the gift of gab.
Oh my god, dude! High pressure window sales is if you ever want to see yourself with your true self very quickly, have a deadline of 30 days where you have to make $10,000 selling an object like windows that you've never sold before. That will reveal everything about your soul.
Right.
Because to be successful at something like that, especially when you're young, because I was 21, dude, and I had to convince people that were like 3 times my age to trust me to buy windows, and guess what? I was an idiot, and I was going to houses with a mohawk. You would never trust a 21-year-old kid with a mohawk to fucking sell you a $30,000 window package.
Yeah, maybe not for windows.
Oh my god, so dude, it was a major freak out, and I remember the thing, because you talked about stage presence, the thing that really, and this is the thing, this is how this makes me think about if I could ever do something like what you're doing, is because I remember when I wasn't doing any sales for like the first week, and my sales manager Glenn was like, Aaron, have you seen yourself doing your own presentation? I was like, no. He's like, what do you think the best part is? So we go upstairs, I do the best part of my presentation, and he video records the whole thing, and he shows me after. It was awful. Dude, I wanted him to turn off the camera like immediately, but he forced me to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget how shitty I was. And that changed my whole perspective of everything. And so I went to house, the next day. It was just like, I have to do the exact opposite of everything that I just saw on camera. And the miracle of it was that it didn't work the first 2 times, but the 3rd time, it worked. It absolutely worked.
Sure.
So, yeah, man, Windows, that was a crazy part of actually developing like who I became.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's...
Because to have the confidence to sort of like cold walk into salons, not be intimidated by their culture, or their atmosphere, and just be like, hey, I understand you. I understand everything that's going on, and to be comfortable around stylists.
Yeah.
Because I think if you don't have any relationship with stylists, what ends up happening is that you sort of put your trust into their hands to make you look good.
Yeah.
Right? That's the relationship. But if you're going in there for any other reason, they're doing what their clients would do to them. They're putting their absolute trust and faith into you to help guide them through it.
Right.
And that's actually why there's a lot of problems in my industry, is because that happens, and a lot of people, they rip a lot of people off.
Yeah.
So it's a big problem.
Sure.
So yeah, I feel you on all those levels of it.
Yeah, it's interesting, and the learning process never looks the same for anybody. You find your own way, and through interesting turns of events, you learn things you didn't expect for this situation to teach you this, but it absolutely does.
Yeah, I mean, in speaking to you, I didn't expect to run across like the attitude of a champion quite the way that I've come across you, because I think it's so ingrained in my head. I watch a lot of sports, and it there's a lot of competitive stuff I see out there where it's so ingrained in my head, where it's just like a champion is just a killer. They're just so they're
apex
bloodthirsty.
predator.
Yeah, they have like completely micro, like almost on like a molecular level. They've studied every aspect and facet of the game, psychologically, physically, so on and so forth. It's a huge battle, and then to meet someone who really is, you got into this, and winning, it seems like the biggest impact that winning has had on you is to improve the culture of what you're doing.
Yeah, totally.
That's really cool, dude. A lot of people don't sort of look at it like that.
And a lot of the champions in my community don't look at it like that either. But
How do they look at it? What's their take on this whole thing?
well, I think just like you said, they're all different beasts. There's totally the bloodthirsty people who just step on people's heads to make it to the top. They don't really particularly care.
And you've seen that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, people go for themselves. They're there for numero uno, and they win, and they bask in all the glory that is them, and they go home. But
Do they give you a trophy or something? Or
oh yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We can display some trophies. I'll send you pictures.
Oh.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people who help to enrich the community. There are a lot of people who get hung up and just put all their pride and all their ego into it. I try to develop a healthy balance, because it is subjective, and you're not always going to win every time. You may never win. And so if your only reason to go to a competition is only to win, that can be pretty daunting and pretty destructive. So, I want to have a good time, whether I win or lose, so leave yourself a little bit more open for that. And, it shows. And I think that kind of calm and confidence shows too. And I like to see a winner who is calm and confident. I don't like to see someone just out to cut heads. But some people do. So, that's why they choose multiple judges.
That's true. And, you're talking about yesterday, people who go into the competition and they do see winning and losing, and that losing is losing. But I think that's the darkness for people comes when they sort of see it as like winning or nothing. And when you start to see all of everything that you did was for nothing.
Well, I'd say
that's
losing isn't necessarily losing. Losing, you lose if you don't show up. If you show up, you'll win something. You might win 30th place out of 30.
right.
But you're 30th in the world, or you're 30th in Kansas, or you're 30th in Austin. You're the 30th best. And all the people who didn't show up lost completely. They are 0 place.
Right.
They didn't even grace the stage. They didn't put any energy into it. And
Sure.
it definitely didn't help the production.
Because they're not even on the map of the whole thing.
Yeah. So if only 3 people, if only first, second, and third go to the competition,
Right.
then the audience sees 3 people. That's not a show. We want to see 60 people.
Right.
And then the top 3 win. That's great. But without those 60 people, it wouldn't have been entertainment. So everyone needs to be there. You know, everyone needs to try. And when you see underdogs grow throughout the years and get better and better, and then eventually become the champions, it's a beautiful story. It's beautiful entertainment. It builds a great production, and it's enriching to those who are involved with that person.
That's a cool concept to think about. That competition is created by people caring.
Yeah.
And putting in, you know what I mean, that forth type of effort. I guess like as this thing goes on, where do you see? I guess like how do you see the future of this thing molding and changing? Now that you've been in it for four years.
The competition's just getting harder. You know, like.
Of course.
Yeah, like people are learning from other people.
Or are there more sponsors coming out? And
Yeah, there's tons of more. You know, as you know, there's tons more men's care products and companies coming out of the woodwork. There's people learning from other people. There's people who stop shaving and stop cutting and trimming, and so mustaches keep getting bigger.
Right.
Beards keep getting longer. It's harder for some of the underdogs to come in late in the game, but at the same time, there's these freaks, these anomalies who come out of nowhere who have only been growing a mustache for a couple of years, and that's huge.
It's like the UFC, man. There's just always some dude out there.
There's always some dude.
You don't know.
You know, and then that's, you know, like the Guinness Book of World Records has all these people. The only people who are in the Guinness Book of World Records are the people who were contacted or contacted the Guinness Book of World Records. There's a lot of people in the world who haven't made that connection, you know. And for the competition, just like if you don't show up, you're not going to be recorded. You know, there could be a guy in South America with a 18-foot beard living in the jungle that no one knows about, and he just
That's true.
and we're never gonna know unless he shows up. But for the people who do show up, they all win because they are in the game. You know, you're in the game. You're part of the process. I wouldn't have walked to Austin in 2017 and won the world championship. My win was developed over all the competitions I ever went to, all the losses that ticked me off into getting into premium shape and developing the idea.
Right.
All of it, attributes to the win.
Gotcha. So I'm preparing for 2017 to 2019. Where's 2019 getting held in?
Antwerp, Belgium.
You were saying something interesting actually that I want to touch on, which is how Antwerp, you would have no business in Antwerp if it wasn't for this.
Yeah.
So it's very cool for you to now think of these like world geographies and locations as in like, hey, if you do
I love the idea that, you know, a lot of people, as you know, people you went to high school with who live in your hometown are still there.
Oh, God, yeah.
And never move out of their hometown. And because they don't have any business. Their business is there with their family and their job. I've found myself in a situation where I have business in Stuttgart, Germany, and Leogang, Austria, and Antwerp, Belgium, and I have business in Bath, England, and Liverpool, and you know these places in the world that I guess I want to go, but until I have a reason, why would I?
Right.
You know, I don't necessarily have the disposable income to just spin the globe and say I'm going to go here, you know, so. It's beautiful to have a reason to go, and then you're with a team. You have sponsors. This whole machine is moving. As I like to say, one of my favorite authors, Hunter S. Thompson, a quote from him: "When the going gets weird, the weird turn pro." And like we have all these guys who love doing this, and this is our thing, and now we're all pros, and we're going to Belgium.
That's awesome, and that's I was talking to you about. That's how I felt about my business. Like when I started road tripping America, anyone could road trip it, and it's nothing against discouraging road tripping at all. But the concept of road tripping for me really changed when I realized that I had business in every single town. Every single town has salons, and barber shops, and so because of the product that I have the ability to be able to go, because like there's very few things, like there's a couple things left in our society institution-wise that you have to go out of your house, and that can't just be done by the internet. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could definitely, you have, like, if people, you can't really get a priest to come over to your house and give you mass. I mean, you probably could if you really wanted to,
Yeah, there's probably an app for it these days.
There might be hire a priest. Eye priest. I mean, fuck. I mean, there's definitely people that come over your house and like, you know what I mean, give you a haircut. You know, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
You know, between like friends and stuff. But you will still see the barbershops because it is a very community-oriented thing.
Yeah.
I think same with the church. I think same with...
and it's nostalgia.
Yeah, a lot of different things. And people want to go back in time to the barbershop and sit there, get the cape thrown over them.
Love it.
And actually I think that's an interaction in society that people want as a permanence.
Absolutely. You know, the barbershop I go to here in Austin on South Congress Avenue Barber.
Shout out to Avenue!
Shout out to Avenue. They're great. The only place I've ever gotten my hair cut since I've lived in Austin. And they've been there since 1933. It looks like the old school barbershops that I went into when I was a little boy.
Yeah.
You put your name on the board and you sit in the chair lined up down the wall and you watch people get their haircuts and you listen to the little conversations and you look at magazines and, you know, you wait your turn and then you get up there and you get your haircut. You get your neck shaved with a straight razor. It's a beautiful, pastime. It's nostalgic.
It is, because I think the one goal that like barbershops, I know that they're old school barbershops, like going back to the very beginning, the one thing that they were very adamant about was combining the two aspects of number one, feeling good, and then number two, looking good. Mm-hmm. Those are very two important principles because it is very easy with any sort of industry for people to feel good, but then look like shit. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why like there's so many recorrective things that go on all the time in the industry. But I think that's probably my favorite part about like men's grooming is that, you know, since the very, very beginning of it, like it's just associated with barbers, that they're very, very into making you feel good and look good.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is how for so long, up until recently, not even until like the last 6 years, prices have been insanely low for the most part.
That's a good thing. I mean, I for me, I remember going to like Tony and Guy whenever I was in high school.
Tony and Guy.
And getting cut in a color.
Yeah.
Some like fancy mohawk, faux hawk variation, and spending a lot of money. Over $100. And I know for a lot of people that's not a lot of money, but whenever you grow up on $10 haircuts, like spending $100, $150, $200 out the door after you've bought products and all this stuff is a total racket. And now I'm back to spending $25. I spent $25 on a haircut.
Yeah.
And for what I get, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Well, I think for so long, salon has just been associated with so much glamour culture. I mean, there's your grandma perm salons, but
sure.
like I think a new thing that like we've started to see within the last like 8 years, 10 years or so is like finally the presence of laid back salons. Mm-hmm. Austin's a very, very, very good example of it. Every single salon out here, completely laid back.
Yeah.
Right? There's only one glamour salon out here, and I'm not going to name it, but
nice.
Anyone in Austin already knows who it is if you're watching this podcast. But yeah, there's only one, and it's not the most successful one. And if you go around Texas in general, Dallas has a ton of glamour salons, but if you go onto the other flip side of it, it has so many salon suites. Because the idea of people now just being able to see their stylist, lock the door, you know what I mean, and have a glass of wine and just chill and get everything they want done, it's a great thing. And it almost reminds me very similar of like the principles and roots of barbering. Just sort of being locked into the zone of like the mirror.
Yeah.
And you just sit and, dude, your barber handles you with literally the sharpest, most dangerous things that could be near your face.
Yeah. And I cut my own mustache, and every time I get my hair cut and they shave, my sides, or they're cutting the shears, I usually just kind of turn to just kind of try to angle it away.
Oh my god.
And I've never had anyone trim my mustache accidentally.
First of all, it's a really funny thing just seeing you do that. I didn't know that you could wiggle it.
Yeah, after a while you get tricks. But typically it's down.
Yeah, just sort of as like a little bit of a party question here. Like, What is it? What's it like to have in like day-to-day like public? Like,
If it's styled like this,
I can't imagine the amount of attention it must draw.
it draws attention. People want to take selfies. People want to talk about it. They want to ask you questions. But you know,
Or I'm sure if you go to a bar, your bartender just must know you
yeah, like
immediately.
you're distinguishable. I've had people buy me drinks for having a big mustache. I mean, people enjoy it, you know, and it's just like having like a throat tattoo or something. It's outward appearance, but on the flip side, you've also signed up for that, and you've chosen to look like that.
Right.
And so you shouldn't be surprised when people ask you about it or want to take pictures with you, because you've set this display for them.
Right.
You know, if you wanted it to be personal, you would have styled it and stayed home. You know, like
That's true.
You go out in public, you're at the mercy of the public. So, you know, there's been times where I lost sight of that and I didn't want attention. But as long as I've had it now, I definitely understand, and as friendly as possible, because it's exciting for people. They've maybe only seen Big Mustache in cartoons or, you know, movies.
Right.
And a lot of people will say, I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't even know that was possible, you know? And some
Right.
people will look and say, is that fake? Is that, are you for real? Is that really, is that, and some people just can't grasp it. They're just, some people want to touch it.
That's another interesting thing to think of in itself, is like, what is that point of something like you having your mustache, which becomes so normal to you that you almost start to kind of forget that there's normal people out there that don't see stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and that's something you have to get over, because just like with having like a neck tattoo, you signed up for it, and like you can't forget that you did this. And if you go out in public and you're used to seeing it every day, and someone is surprised by it, they may react in a way that you don't necessarily want, but that's what it is, you know. And if you haven't learned your lesson and shaved it off, then you've set yourself up for it.
That's true, yeah. You've almost kind of set yourself up to this weird misery.
Well, I mean, it's definitely not miserable. It's a great gig.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see little kids and they'll look up at me and they're just like, oh, mind completely blown.
Babies too.
Sometimes babies will stare. Babies, sometimes they don't care at all.
Yeah.
But like, you know, little guys, like 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, it totally blows their mind.
Yeah.
And I love that.
It's definitely.
And I'll, you know, give them a little mustache wiggle, and they're just like, oh my gosh, did you see that guy's mustache? You know, take a selfie with them. You know, I like that. I think it's fun. I mean, I don't style it up all the time. You know, if I wear it down, it almost looks like a goatee because it just kind of falls in front of my face.
Right.
So that people definitely don't notice it as much. Whenever it has this effect, people notice it from like across the street.
Do you ever just get amused and just do some weird shit with it?
No. I've like experimented, but not outside of the mirror, you know. And,
Right. Yeah.
And if I don't like it, no way, you know. Like, and the only thing I like is just natural, down, kind of whipped out to the sides, or up like this.
Yeah.
You know, I
got you.
I'm not trying to go for anything else. It's what I feel good naturally.
That's good. So I guess, just to complete the question, from 2017, the laundry rail, to 2019, now that you have 2 years to prepare for it, I guess the competition, is it something that's really even on your mind right now? Or is it just like in between now and then, like all the things that you want to do, like play music, you know, like do, like live your life and, you know, mentor others? Is that what's on your mind primarily?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think about the Belgium competition at all. I won't think about it until the 6 months before it, you know, or 3 months before it. Unless I have some some kind of inspiration between now and then that strikes me somewhere that maybe I want to change my outfit, or maybe I want to do something different. Maybe I feel like I owe myself something creatively to change things up. Maybe I'll go for it. But currently, I just, I live my life for pretty much everything else. Mustache is just like my eyebrows. It's like, yeah, it's totally there, and it's not going anywhere. I enjoy it, but it really doesn't jolt me out of bed or like command my week or like
Yeah.
It doesn't do much. It's normal.
Well, I think it's very cool that it's manifested, in many ways. Like that's, like there's a couple things that have been leading up to it. You working in men's grooming, you as a kid just being able to draw and like see shapes, and then just your, the competitive nature of trying to get something perfect and crafted, and it ended up in facial hair. And I think it's interesting how that works out, because I would have never expected that all of my shit would have ended up in scissors.
Sure.
And I think for a lot of people, I think a lot of their shit, they don't expect it to end up in the forms that it does.
Yeah. But you find yourself there doing a good job, and there's a lot to be said about that.
Dude, nice to meet you as a person, man.
Yeah, you too.
So, yeah, man.
A lot of fun.
Anything you want to say to the camera? Or all the people listening out there?
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Don't shave. Grow a mustache.
And if you want an iPod 1, I know where to find them.